this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about drownproofing. Drownproofing is an event that everybody that wants to be a special operator in the Air Force, special warfare programs, you're going to have to do drownproofing and pass this event at some point. Now it's gonna hit you pretty early on in the pipeline, and it worries a lot of people, and it gives a lot of people problems that have never really dealt with having your hands and feet tied up. Drownproofing, I believe, I'm pretty sure it came from the Vietnam era. I think a SEAL was thrown off a boat and in shallow water, and he had his hands and feet tied up, his hands tied behind his back and his feet tied together, and he survived by bobbing up and down, hitting the bottom of the river and coming up and taking breaths. So that's kind of what it's focused around, and that's the main part of drownproofing, is just bobbing up and down in a pool. I mean, if you get that down, you've got most of the event down anyway. But I'm going to go into kind of some tips to prepare for this event and kind of lay out what happens in drownproofing. I know I've done some other stuff on it. Maybe I didn't give specifics on this event, but it seems to concern a lot of people. They've asked me a lot of questions about it, and it did give me problems because I never really practiced it. I just avoided it until I absolutely had to do it. So but the good news is that if you practice this stuff beforehand, drownproofing is going to be one of the easiest things you're going to do in the pool. If you enjoy reading and don't really like watching me talk on a camera, you can visit my blog site that I'll link in the description. You can read stuff on there. I like to write too, and I feel like maybe sometimes I relay stuff better writing, but I try to get in front of the camera and get better at it. So I know a lot of people love just getting on YouTube and getting information. So a lot of things never really change in programs like special warfare, and as far as I know, the drownproofing sequence of events hasn't changed, but if it has, I'm going to kind of give you what I experienced, and it'll probably be similar to what you're going to have to do in the pool, or if you're just curious about what drownproofing is. All right, I'm not sure if back in the day they used ropes, but now they use Velcro straps. So these straps are, you're going to have your hands tied behind your back and your feet tied together. They're going to be Velcro strapped together, so you can wiggle out of these things easily, and that's one thing right off the bat to keep in mind. And you're going to stand on the side of the deep end of the pool, and they're going to shout for you to enter the water, and you're just going to simply jump in with your hands and feet bound together. Now, the first thing you're going to do is a series of events called bobbing, and I believe there's 10 to 12 bobs. Bobbing is simply sinking to the bottom of the pool and pushing back up, and that's how you're going to breathe. You're going to be at about 10 to 12 feet of water. I think we were in 12 feet of water, so you're going to have to, every time, you're going to have to go down to the bottom of the pool, get a good push off, and come up and take a breath. Now, this is something right off the bat that I didn't have too much trouble with, but there's just a feeling of worry that if I didn't get to the bottom and I missed the breath, but it's not a big deal. We were doing 50-meter underwater swim, so if you really think about it, all you're doing is bobbing up and down slowly. There is no time limit on this thing. You can take as long as you need to do the required stuff. So you're going to do 10 to 12 bobs, and you're simply, there's two types of people I notice in training. So you're going to have people that tend to sink towards the bottom. If that's you, you're going to really like bobbing. I really liked it because I had no problem getting to the bottom. I would just sink down there normally, maybe blow out a few bubbles, and then I was there, and I come back up. Guys that did not sink very well, they didn't like bobbing, and I would see them kind of floating in between the floor and the surface of the pool, blowing out all the air and just kind of trying to get down to the bottom. So if that's you, you're going to have to focus on every time you come up for a breath, you're going to have to probably exhale all the air in your lungs out and be patient and get to the bottom of the pool, but you should be able to reach the bottom. You're going to move on to an event called traveling. And let me tell you, traveling was the thing that gave me the most problems until I figured out kind of how to do it, my own way to do it. And I had a guy show me this in the pool. I was practicing, and he gave me some insight on something I was kind of doing wrong. So when I would see videos of guys traveling is going to consist of you having to make it from the deep end. You're going to be probably in a 25-meter, or you might be in a 50-meter pool, but you're going to have to maneuver 100 meters with your hands and feet tied up. You're going to have to find a way to go through the pool and do that distance. So that's kind of a long way. I mean, it's going to take you a little while to do this, and it did cause me a lot of panic because I couldn't seem to move very well, and I would kind of stall out. The videos I saw of guys doing this, they were doing like some kind of porpoise thing where they were kind of porpoising through the water and taking a breath, and that's awesome if you can do it. And they must have been a really good swimmer because I didn't really do that too well. My way wasn't as fluid and pretty, but it did work for me once I figured out how to do it. It didn't take me long. Instead of the porpoise maneuver, doing this number and probably doing it a lot faster, I simply just went forward as soon as I was done with my bobs, and I would lay my face down in the water, and I would bend at the knees, and I would kick my legs at the knees, 3 to 4, however many strokes I wanted to do, and I would just lift my head up slightly like I was freestyling and take a breath. That took a long while, but it kept me really relaxed, and just doing that motion with my legs and my knees, just kind of kicking with my legs and kind of keeping my body still, kept me relaxed. And I'm kind of giving you this from the point of view of somebody that wasn't a very strong swimmer getting through these events. So if you're somebody that's not a really good freestyle swimmer, somebody that's not very comfortable in the water yet, maybe doing the technique with bending at the knees and just kicking your legs are going to be together, and they're going to give you a pretty good amount of movement in the water. If I had a GoPro camera, maybe I will later. I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about. But if you can envision that, that will help with your traveling. And you're going to have to go, again, 100 meters, so it's going to take you a little bit of time. But the key in all this, like I've said in every event in the pool, is just to stay relaxed and know that there's nobody in the water harassing you. There's nobody yelling at you. They're just watching to see if you're doing everything. You just got to get through the sequence of events. So the next thing you got to do is and you're going to have to float in an area like 4x4 area, 4 feet by 4 feet, and just kind of remain there. I mean, again, you're just going to have to sit there, and if you can be still, if you're somebody that floats really well, you're just going to probably get bored. You're going to sit there and just fill your lungs up with air and stay in one area. Now me, I felt my body kind of sinking, so I would give myself a little bit of a kick. When my legs started, I let my legs sink down a little, and I would just give a little kick, and I would go back and try to lay on my stomach. If I drifted back down my legs, I would just take my legs and give a little kick, and then come back. So I did kind of sink down to the bottom. Now, as long as you're not touching the bottom of the pool, you could probably float halfway in between the surface and the bottom, as long as you get back up and don't move out of the area you're supposed to be in. These have to be subtle movements because you don't want to be moving all over the pool. You're gonna have to stay in a small confined area. But remember, on floating, I had it pictured as you had to be completely still and actually just float like a log in the water. That wasn't necessarily the case. So as long as I could keep the straps on my hands and my feet and not go down the bottom to cheat and stay in a small area, that worked, and I ended up passing the floating. But if you're somebody that floats really well, this probably won't even be an issue for you. But if you're a sinker like me, just remember, let your body kind of dip down. Even if you go, you're not floating on your horizontally like this. If you start to go like this, just use your feet to kick back up and stay as relaxed as possible. Another thing is to, you might want to go through this series of events as I'm telling you this stuff. Do it one day. It'll take you a little while, but go through the whole series. What I found is I ended up being able to do all these things, but it was stacking them all together, and I was floating, and I'm thinking about, oh man, what's next? I got to go back to the deep end and bob some more and grab my mask. And when I was starting the bobs, I was like, oh, I got to travel next, and it started getting my heart rate up. But practice these things, and if you get them down, and just know that you'll do much better if you can do it all together. I thought I had it all down until I sequenced it all together. Then I'm like, man, this is a long time to be focusing on this stuff. So to the deep end of the pool and do, this is where I might be a little off on how many times you do this stuff, but I know you're gonna start bobbing again. I think you gotta do like 5 more bobs, which pretty easy now. I mean, I feel like that was the easiest thing to do. So you're gonna do 5 bobs, and then you're gonna have to do a front flip off the bottom of the pool. So Doing a front flip, it's going to be easier than on the air, but the first time you try this stuff, it's going to be weird. And it has to be a good front flip. It can't be crooked. So if you do one that's crooked, you're going to have to do it again. So practice on going, if you've never done a front flip in the water, hopefully you have, you're going to have to make sure that you're blowing out of your nose, because water is going to go up your nose. These pools are highly chlorinated, so it's probably going to burn, but just blow it out of your nose. Not a big deal. But you're going to have to do a front flip. So that can be challenging. And my technique for that was I would sink down to the bottom with a good breath, go down and crouch down as far as I could, and I would just go for it. And then once I did it, if I felt like I didn't get enough of a push off, I would use my legs to kind of kick myself over. And you know, the first few times you do this, you know, you're scraping the head on the bottom of the pool, you're going crooked. So definitely practice this, you know, practice it on its own. Just put your hands behind your back, put your feet together, and sink down to the bottom of the pool and practice doing front flips, because you're gonna have to do that. I think after your front flip, you're gonna have to do a back flip. So again, I'm somebody that learned to do a back flip recently in the air, but I had a hard time doing a back flip back then in the water. But it's the same thing as a front flip. But for me, it was kind of hard to go for it and go back, because it just felt weird for me. So you're gonna have to practice that as well. Again, if you don't get a good enough push off, you're gonna have to use your feet and just kick yourself over. You can definitely use your feet, but you're gonna have to get a good breath. Know that when you go up for that breath and you're gonna do that front flip, get you a good breath, because you're probably gonna have to blow most of it out to get to the bottom if you're not a sinker. And then you're going to have to do a perfect front flip or back flip. So after your back flip, again, practice that as many times as you need to get it down. It's going to have to be perfect. It's going to have to be straight. It can't be crooked. You're going to have to do, I think, 5 more bobs. As you see, bobbing is one of the main events of this whole thing. So you get bobbing down, you got a lot of it conquered. So 5 more bobs, I believe, and then they're going to throw your dive mask into the bottom of the pool. And it's going to have to sink to the bottom, or it might already be down there, and then you're going to have to go down there and grab this mask with your teeth on after 5 more bobs. I think you do 5. On the 5th one or 6th, they're going to tell you. They'll say, you know, go down and get your mask. So you're going to, what I did, I just gave myself a good breath, and I would lay on the bottom of the pool, take my time, and grab the mask strategically. You're going to have to grab this mask in the right spot. If you grab this thing, you can grab it in a way that when you come up to get a breath, your mask can be full of water, and you're drinking the water. So again, practice this, and find a good way to grab your mask that you like, and do it a bunch of times, and know that that's the way you're going to grab your mask. You can see your mask underwater. It's going to be blurry, but know where to grab this thing, and find out where you like to bob with this thing in your teeth, because you're going to have to do 5 bobs with this mask in your teeth. And if you haven't done it, it sounds easier than it is, because it can really jack you up if you grab it wrong and you're sucking in water. And it's kind of, you're gonna have to breathe in and just get a good breath and do your bobs that way. So it's just something you're gonna have to adapt to. Not hard once you get it down and you grab it in the right spot. All these things are just practice. I think after your 5 bobs with your mask, you are done with this event. So, you know, that's drown proofing in a nutshell. And again, if you practice this, there's nobody that's going through this type of training that can't get drown proofing down and become relaxed at it. It sounds intimidating, the name drown proofing. It feels intimidating at first when you have your hands and feet bound. But just know that if there is a big, huge problem, you can always get out of these things. Keep that in the back of your mind. But there's no reason that you need to get out of these straps. When I first started this stuff, they would practice with us, and I would look around and see straps floating around everywhere, and see bubbles and see people around me, and that would freak me out. And then I would just break my hands free. And so focus on yourself. It's a solo event. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing, and just take your time and have fun with it. These are things that will make you a much better swimmer. Even if you're somebody that's interested in this stuff and doesn't want to do the training, try drown proofing in a pool at some point, you know. But just pretend your hands and feet are tied up. It'll make you more relaxed. It'll make you better at swimming. It'll make you better at everything. So That's all I have on that video. I had a lot of questions on it, so I hope that helps. I'll try to do some videos with a underwater camera maybe and show you guys some video on how I do it and what it looks like. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon, hopefully with another one.